Hi, this is Derek with MostInterestingLife.com, and today's video is a follow-up to an article I wrote on my site, MostInterestingLife.com, and it's called Interesting People Keep Up with Politics. Now, interesting people usually are knowledgeable in a lot of different areas of life. They look to constantly be learning new things, they're reading, they're learning, they're speaking with other interesting people, they're constantly getting involved and just becoming more and more knowledgeable about all areas of life, from things that are everyday, like things that are sciences, to more esoteric and exotic topics. But one thing that's really important and that interesting people always keep up with, or at least they know about, are politics. Now, interesting people pay more attention to politics than silly things like celebrity gossip, what's on TV, spending an excessive amount of time over what's going on with sports teams. And instead, they know what's going on with all different global issues. They at least have something to say about it. And most importantly, and everybody should do this, even boring people should do this, they should vote. They should vote not only in the big elections, but in smaller local elections. Smaller local elections, actually your vote means more in those elections because there are less people voting. If there's a couple of thousand people voting, that means your vote has a higher weight than an election where there's millions of people voting. And a lot of times with local politicians and such, the laws that they put into effect are more likely to have an effect on you. Whereas presidents and stuff, usually it's harder for them to make massive changes. Smaller local politicians, they are more likely to affect things that affect your day-to-day life. So you should vote in those elections too. They're just as important, if not more important, than the major elections. Especially, I live in New York State, so in a presidential election, it doesn't really matter as much how I vote because New York typically it goes to whoever the Democratic candidate is, but in the local elections things could swing in bigger ways than they do in the presidential. So vote in all the elections. Learn a little bit about each candidate, even if it only takes 10-15 minutes doing Google searches and such. Ideally you should do more, but I mean that's typically enough to at least know which candidate you would favor and to actually have an effect. Interesting people, they usually do have opinions on most political issues. You know, this video isn't about me expressing my opinions and, dividing people in that way, but to say that you should have an opinion, but you shouldn't be shoving it down everyone's throat either on Facebook. I mean, it's silly when people are constantly posting political things on Facebook or Instagram or other social media. You're really not changing anybody's opinion. You're either pissing off people who think differently than you, or the people that already agree with you, they're just going to nod their heads. So it doesn't really, it's not really a big conduit for change. I mean, it could be some sharing of information, but usually people just do it to fire up other people. And that's not how real progress is made, just by annoying everybody. So you should have opinions, you should know about the issues, have opinions, but most intelligent opinions are a mix of both sides, because it's usually not that one side is complete idiots and the other side is just smart and knows everything. Usually politics are a little bit more complex than that. If you speak to somebody intelligently on the other side, they probably have a few good points. And really, if any progress is to be made, you need to meet somewhere in the middle. It may be closer to one side than the other, but somewhere in the middle. And causing destructive, just annoying debates on Facebook doesn't help anybody. Now, boring people are often complaining about politics. They say politicians are all crooked. They're saying how the whole system's corrupt, and they don't even vote. How does anyone expect politicians to be accountable to their actions, to lying, if people aren't paying attention and they're not voting? If every time candidates were lying, well, I guess we might not have politicians, but eventually they would learn you have to be honest, because if people find out you're not being honest, they're not going to vote for you. So accountability is a big thing, and if you have all these people complaining about the state of politics and politicians, and these people aren't even voting. So you don't have a right to complain if you're not even voting. I I mean, come on. That's the one of the best ways to hold people accountable. There's other things, but that's a minimum. I mean, votes are what get people into office. If more people paid attention and voted, these politicians would not be able to get away nearly as much of what they get away with. And this has to do with what I've written about, what I've spoken about in some videos about distraction. Most people are more focused and distracted on very small, stupid things in life. I mean, some of these things are important things about what they need to do with their own life. They might have families, jobs, they might be making money and, going to the gym, following a lot of the other interesting pursuits that we talk about on this channel. So, I mean, yes, they're busy, but it doesn't take a ton of time to pay attention to politics. And most of what people are focusing on instead are just silly distractions. Things like, the things I always talk about here, social media, or too much social media, too much TV, too much celebrity gossip, and too much sports. I'm saying too much because anything in moderation and small amounts is fine. I mean, there are plenty of successful people that like some of that stuff in small doses. But I mean, unless you have a vested interest, unless you own a sizable portion of Facebook or one of these celebrity magazines, or you own the TV channel, or you own the sports team, you're not making money off that. It's not helping you. It's not helping your friends. It's not helping your family. It's not getting you more fit. It's not giving you more money. It's not helping you. And what will give you more life satisfaction 10, 20 years down the line? That's what you need to think about. So, avoid distraction and focus on more important things. And if like politics is an important thing to focus on too. Interesting people are always able to talk about almost any subject in life. They have a wealth of knowledge spread out in all different areas, in science, in politics, in economics. And that's something that if you're looking to be more interesting, you should look to learn more about. It could be as simple as just getting a book, an elementary book on one of these issues on politics. Get like a high school or intro-level college textbook on them even. The internet, you could read tons of things on Wikipedia and stuff like that. If you don't know what a political party represents or a certain part of a system, you could just click and you could learn. You just keep on clicking on things you don't know, and eventually you'll have decent knowledge on these areas. And I mean, that's a type of surfing the internet that's actually pretty productive. Now, interesting people should be able to talk to people on both sides of a political spectrum without it becoming a heated argument. It is said that Benjamin Franklin never argued with anyone. He would have productive discussions and be able to find middle ground, which was why he was often sent by the United States as a diplomat in dealing with other countries. He was sent to France to deal with them a lot. A lot of people had trouble dealing with France, but he was very good at doing it. Because he wasn't looking to be arguing, he would always look for common ground and look to understand the other side, understand both sides of an issue, and to be able to have a productive conversation rather than an argument. It's like how I've mentioned before of how in Hong Kong, if two people are having an argument, the first person to lose their temper is seen to lose the argument. So you want to be able to discuss something in a productive, calm, cool, logical way in order to actually get somewhere with that. And interesting people, they appreciate other opinions. They know that they don't always know everything. They don't always get everything right. And you might actually learn something from somebody else. If somebody has a different opinion, either you could talk to them about how it's wrong and still keep the same opinion and conclusion, or you might actually change it if there's overwhelming evidence that the way that you were thinking was not correct. I mean, that it's good to be corrected. It's good to, from that moment on, to have a better, more correct opinion. So interesting people are always appreciative of the possibility of opinions differing from their own. But with all this politics and everything, the most important thing is truly interesting people know that they control their own life. And the results of all these elections, people get all upset. They get all pissed off. You see that people are crying after certain elections. But really, you steer your own ship. The political environment might be like a storm going by. It might be different conditions. But it's up to you to make the most out of your life, given those conditions. I mean, you could always leave the country if you wanted to, if you don't like, or leave the state, or leave whatever county you're in. That's always an option. But it's up to you to make the best out of your life. Change always happens. No matter what, there's always going to be a lot of change that happens in this world. And it's up to you to make the most of it and to navigate those waters. A lot of people just like to complain and complain, but it doesn't get them anywhere. They're just complaining to people that they talk to and complain to themselves, but that doesn't really help your life. So, I mean, with all this political talk, 90+% of it is what you do with your life. Unless you're getting some specific government contract and this and that, but still, you should, in business, you got to be ready for stuff like that. So you need to steer your own ship and not be putting blame, because blame is a waste of time. It's very, very tempting to look to blame others, to blame politicians, to blame a political environment, and you might even be right in a lot of ways, but it's not productive. And in the end, you need to see what is the most productive path to take. So, I'm not pushing any specific political views, obviously, in this video. I haven't so far. I tend to see things in the current American political system. I see things on both sides of how things are. I agree with some Democrat positions. I agree with some Republican positions. I think that to make real progress, you need to be able to work with both sides. But the biggest thing that I'm saying in this video is participation. Know about politics. It doesn't take that long to get a base understanding. Make sure you vote in elections as a minimum. Get involved, and it just makes life more interesting to be involved, to be a participant in life and in the things that are going around you. So if you like this video, give it a like, leave a comment, share, subscribe. Go to my site, mostinterestinglife.com, and until next time, stay interesting.